2026 sees me travel the length and breadth of England to run a marathon per week in each of its 39 historic counties. Why? To raise funds for Tommy's, the charity that does incredible work to try to end the heartbreak of baby loss. I'll be joined each week by someone who has their own story of loss, their own rollercoaster journey, their own reason to be there. This podcast shares those stories in the hope that they can bring awareness to an often undiscussed topic and even, perhaps, a flicker of light in someone's darkness. You can follow the runs, the stories, and donate to the cause at marathonsformiracles.com. Enjoy. Welcome to episode 1 of the Marathons for Miracles podcast. It's very exciting to be getting started with these, and we're joined this week by Lyni, who is both our first podcast guest and will be our first runner. Lyni is from Leicestershire and has got fantastic routes and mad plans for us for our running for our Leicestershire leg, which we're going to touch on a little bit later on. But firstly, we're going to look into more about Lyni's story, how she became involved in what we're doing, and her reasons for wanting to run for the Marathons for Miracles cause and for Tommy's. So Lyni, welcome. And can you just start off by telling us your story and what led you to be involved in the Marathons for Miracles cause?
Yes. Good morning, Ollie. So I gave birth to a healthy daughter in 2004, and life happened. 10 years accidentally passed when me and my husband thought, about time we had another one.
Yeah.
And I just assumed that because I could get pregnant and give birth, I'd be able to get pregnant again. It's kind of, it's what people think, isn't it? I want a baby, I'll have one. And nobody really talks about not being able to get pregnant.
Yeah. And with your first daughter, there no issues to speak of, or fairly smooth sailing, arrived happily, healthy?
Yeah. Pregnancy was fine. Falling pregnant was fine. She was emergency C-section, but then...
So you were heading into the second one with a clean slate and no sense of
very optimistic. Just, like I said, I thought people wanted a baby, therefore they had one. Bit naive, really. So I wouldn't say we struggled to get pregnant, but it took a lot longer than I was expecting. And then I discovered I was pregnant again in December 2015, when my eldest just had her 11th birthday. And it didn't feel quite right. I thought that pregnancy would feel the same as the first pregnancy. Didn't get as many pregnancy symptoms straight away. And then there was a bit of bleeding on my birthday in February. So, 2 months later, found myself in hospital having a scan to be told that I was only a few weeks pregnant, which didn't make sense because I knew that I took the pregnancy test 2 months ago. So I should have been around about 12 weeks pregnant. The dates just didn't add up at all. But these professional doctors, they told me I was only a couple of weeks, and that was that. They've done you can see this little blob on the screen, they've done their measurements. Therefore, I am only a couple of weeks pregnant. I had to go back 1 or 2 weeks later to be told that it wasn't a viable pregnancy. But it was very cold and clinical. I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I want it to be a viable pregnancy. I want this baby. But there was still no heartbeat. And then I went back for a third scan to be told that it definitely wasn't viable and I was going to have a miscarriage. I just felt numb. I don't want to wait for a miscarriage. I want to keep the baby.
Yeah.
But it's
such a strange moment. It's one I'll never forget. And firstly, as ever, very sorry to hear that happened, Lyni, and it's never a nice conversation to have and a time to relive, but it's all those it's as much, and I never had to go through the physical side of it, which you will have done with the hormones and the actual pregnancy symptoms, as you said. But it's then that psychological conflict as well, isn't it? Of you're having to deal with the situation in front of you whilst not wanting that situation to exist at
Yeah,
all.
just just go home and wait for a miscarriage.
So you were then sent home, wait to see what happens.
Just yeah, just wait for nature to take its course. And if you don't have a miscarriage, then I'd have to go back to the hospital and have like a medical procedure to remove it.
Yeah.
It's just it all sounded very clinical and matter of fact. So I did go home. The miscarriage did happen. It was horrific pain, like mentally and physically. It was like, how can something so small and so unviable cause so much pain?
Yeah.
That's something the size of I don't even know if it was as big as the size of a pea, but
Mm.
yeah, if you imagine like a pea causing that much physical pain, it was unreal. And the whole thing was just weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't think of a better word than just weird.
No, that's, yeah, I think that's as good as any.
So then I went back for another scan to make sure that it was complete.
Yeah.
So I don't want it to be complete. Complete is having that fourth member of our family. Yeah, crazy terminology.
I find this quite a lot having these sorts of conversations. It is very easy to slip into some quite clinical language. And every time I do, I sort of catch myself and try and explain my way out of it. But you can see from the medical professional's perspective that they almost have to, because otherwise they'd never get anything done. But it's such a conflict of emotions from your perspective of having to deal with this very matter of fact approach, which probably ultimately is in your best interest, but isn't psychologically isn't in your best interest at all.
Yeah. And I get that things have to be said in layman terms so that there's no confusion. Like the medical team, they have to know that I've understood what's being said. But yeah, I don't know what other words could be used instead either, because it's such a traumatic time. You're
Yeah.
not really thinking about language anyway. It's just,
Thinking about making it through the next day.
yeah, just surviving. So I was quite poorly with the miscarriage, and even after it was complete, still felt pretty rough afterwards. And then I started to feel a bit better, felt more, I was still grieving, but beginning to feel like myself. And then just a couple of days after feeling okay, I started to feel really rough, like really
Mm.
achy and stuff. So it was a Tuesday. I went to the doctors and they said, well, you've had a miscarriage, you're grieving, just go for a walk. I thought, middle of winter, I don't want to go for a walk. Where am I supposed to walk to?
Yeah.
So I treated myself to a trip round the supermarket. And then I was absolutely like beyond shattered. Got back home and just slept for like 4 hours. And I woke up thinking, this isn't quite right. And on the Wednesday, I felt even worse, like physically everything aching. I went back to the doctors. Thursday, woke up, felt even worse again. I thought, I can't keep going back to the doctors because they keep telling me I'm okay.
Mm.
The Friday, phoned the doctors again, and it was a phone appointment this time. And they prescribed Cocodamol and all these fancy pain relief. Well, it's not because of the miscarriage, because I know my body and I know that I started to feel better. So why would I suddenly start to feel this poorly again? Oh,
Mm.
Saturday morning, I woke up vomiting. I said to my husband, I can't do this anymore. You've got to take me to the hospital. And he said, well, if you want me to take you, we've got to go right now because I've promised to help my mate move his shed. And to be fair, if he hadn't have said that, I probably would have put it off for a bit late. Like, I'll see how I am later on.
Yeah, yeah, and you might never have gone.
You can imagine how busy A&E is on a Saturday morning when you've got all the people who were out Friday
Mhm.
getting injured. You've got all the sports people Saturday morning. The place was heaving. And I'm sat in my little wheelchair with my hood pulled right over my face. And my husband wheeled me up to reception. And the receptionist took my pulse and said, the doctor will see you in 10 minutes.
Mhm.
I was like, why will the doctor see me in 10 minutes? This doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, it wasn't even 10 minutes, probably like 5 minutes. Didn't see a triage nurse, straight to the doctor. Did some prodding and poking. Said to my husband, why didn't you bring her sooner? She's really poorly. But I'd been to the
You'd been to the
doctor.
doctor every day that week, yeah.
Yeah. So I was admitted with swine flu.
Wow.
My
I
immune system,
wasn't sorry, I wasn't I wasn't
yeah,
expecting that to be where this was going.
I know. It's like,
And did that turn out to be a pregnancy complication, or was it
no,
completely unrelated? Or
my immune system was just so battered. A pregnancy that wasn't a pregnancy. Then it was a pregnancy, but it was a miscarriage. I think looking back, I don't know whether my body was just fighting for such a long time with this unviable pregnancy.
yeah, because I guess if you'd gone from when you had your first pregnancy test to nearly the 12-week point, but they were saying you were only 2 weeks, the amount of time that had perhaps
Yeah.
been an unviable pregnancy was your body had been really struggling for quite some time.
What had my body been doing?
Yeah.
Trying to keep it, trying to have a miscarriage? I don't know. Yeah. So, yeah, to be told I had swine flu, but again, everybody was very clinical.
Mm.
And it wasn't until somebody from gynecology came and they said, because you've recently had a miscarriage, we just want to check that it's not a complication of the pregnancy. Just want to check that there's no like infection in my uterus or whatever. And she was the loveliest person I've ever met. She held my hand and she said, I'm so sorry for your loss. And she just treated me like a human
Mm.
with real emotions that I just lay there crying. And it felt like the first time somebody had actually acknowledged that I was going through a loss. But yeah, then she did her job and my uterus was fine, thankfully. Got home, recovered slowly. Then about 2 weeks after that, started vomiting again. And I was like, geez, what on earth is going on? And I was pregnant. I was like, sorry, what?
Mm.
How?
Yeah.
I was still numb. But then it was like, well, I can't grieve anymore because I'm pregnant. What am I grieving for? For what should have been. My original due date was the end of August. And then with this pregnancy, my due date was the end of November.
Wow. So
So
3 months.
I had a really crazy thought of like, was the baby hiding? Like, was I supposed to have twins? But I'd had that many scans.
Yeah, yeah.
But because the dates were like so close, I just thought this doesn't make any sense.
Mm.
And then the August due date came and went. Do you celebrate it? Don't you? Like, not
Yeah.
celebrate, but
How
do
did
you
you find
acknowledge it?
that? 6 months pregnant as well. That's this is something it comes up a lot in circumstances around people who've recently had a loss and find out that friends are pregnant, and that mad mix of emotions of I hate you a little bit, but I'm really pleased for you all at the same time. And how can those two things coexist? But they definitely can. And to have that mixture of emotions all within yourself, I can't imagine what that must have been like.
It's the hardest thing to try and pick apart. But yeah, Felicity, perfectly healthy pregnancy. I did keep an eye on, I had a couple of extra scans because my husband's got a hole in his heart.
Mm.
But apart from that, there was no, like, I wanted a bit of protection. I wanted to know that it was okay, but I wasn't entitled to an early pregnancy scan on the NHS
Mm.
because I'd only had one miscarriage. So we paid private for a scan
Just for some reassurance.
just to know that it was a little baby in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What a story, Lyni.
yeah.
And one that must keep, as we know, and and I want to ask you about this actually, because we're obviously a couple of years down the line from when our miscarriage happened in 2022. I'd be interested to hear how sort of 10 years looking back, and now a 10-year-old daughter, 11-year-old daughter.
He'll be 9 on
No.
Monday.
There you go. On Monday. Happy
Yeah.
birthday. How do you think your emotions towards what happened have changed in that period of time? Do you still find it quite a difficult situation to look at, or has it got easier? How do you feel that's evolved for you?
It's definitely got easier, but it's still well, it's always going to be a crazy story, isn't it?
Mm.
And it just, in my mind, it still doesn't make any sense. And I announced my pregnancy with the miscarriage because we'd been out for Christmas and I wasn't drinking. We'd been out for New Year's Eve and I wasn't drinking. Then it's my birthday coming up.
You don't have to announce it at that point.
Yeah, so I thought I don't want people to, why isn't she?
Mm.
So I did announce it. And then it was literally the next day the bleeding started and I was like, ooh. A few people did say you shouldn't have announced it. But why should we go through these things in secret?
I'm wholeheartedly agree with you. We had a similar circumstance where we'd had a housewarming party and announced that we were pregnant at the party to those who didn't already know. And then Amy, she'd been into hospital the night before with some bleeding, and they'd said she was fine. And then she went back in on the Monday evening, and that was when the miscarriage started. So we'd literally just told everyone. And then, when we then got pregnant with our now 2-year-old daughter, we had exactly the same conversation and said, do we tell people later or do we tell people earlier? Because exactly as you said, the people that were there for us when we were going through it, to think that might happen again and those people wouldn't know what was going on was just, it didn't make sense to us. So I think
How can you hold that secret and be okay?
Mm.
Like, your friends are going to know that you're acting a bit weird. And like, if I suffer any bereavement in my life, I want everybody to know so that I'm not alone. I want the comfort. I need the comfort. And
Absolutely. Did that change your approach when you then became pregnant again?
I was absolutely shitting myself, excuse my language, as to what people would think of me. I was like, why is this my worry?
Mm.
Like, I want to tell people I'm pregnant because I need the support. I don't want to go through this on my own. But it was like, I was scared of their reaction.
Yeah.
And I think we need to,
Why do you think that was? Because it was so soon?
yeah. But it's not like we plan these things, really, is it?
Absolutely not. And do you think that possibly stems from not a reflection of your friends and your friendship group specifically, but just a wider societal lack of awareness around the whole issue?
It is a society thing. And there's like this unwritten rule, isn't there? Where the female discovers she's pregnant, tells the partner straight away, or they find out together. They've got to keep it an absolute secret until you've had your first scan at 12 weeks. But that 12-week scan isn't always at 12 weeks.
Mm.
Might be like 14, 15 weeks. Keeping something that huge a secret just in case something goes wrong.
Mm.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, and there's nothing else in life that's as exciting and life-changing as that you would keep secret in case something went wrong.
Yeah, but it's almost like you've got to keep it secret in case it goes wrong. But having a baby, just because you've fallen pregnant, doesn't mean it's going to be a viable pregnancy. Is it like 1 in 4
1 in 4
pregnancies?
is the statistic. Yeah.
But it's probably higher than that
Yeah.
because of all the people who keep it a secret.
Yeah. Or never know that they've had one, or yeah. There are the people who quote the statistics, like Tommy's, for example, are open about the fact that they could be unreliable, but they're likely to be unreliable in a conservative way rather than they think they're underestimating rather than
Yeah.
overestimating. So
Yeah, so it's probably like 50%.
quite possibly, who knows?
But you think if you want to buy a house, you don't keep that an absolute massive secret until you've got the keys, just in case something goes wrong.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
You share the stress with those you love the most. And talk about stress of a pregnancy, not only have you got this, oh my gosh, it could go wrong, you wake up every day feeling rotten because of this little parasite that you're growing into a human. And you've got to go through all the mental stress, the anguish, the uncertainty, and all those physical symptoms as well. And when people say that women are glowing through pregnancy, I don't know which pregnant women they look at. But
No
yeah,
comment. My wife's pregnant at the moment, so I'm going to keep quiet.
yeah, good choice. But I remember feeling so sick every single day, every single morning, not been all day, not just morning sickness. You can't keep that a secret.
There's a couple of bits that were quite interesting that I just wanted to ask you about. The first one is you had a daughter whilst you were going through all this who was you said about 11 at the time. How do you think, how did that play? That must have been a very difficult situation to navigate, because at 11 years old, they know exactly what's going on. Like, there's not even any of the guess. We've got a 2-year-old at the moment who we're trying to explain the fact that mummy's pregnant too, and she sort of gets it, but she sort of doesn't. At 11, there's none of that. So how how did you find dealing with that situation while still being a mum to a little girl who would have been very, very excited about?
Yeah. All she's ever wanted was to be a big sister, bless her. So I felt so guilty that, like, going through the miscarriage, and I could see the hurt that she was going through, but not knowing how to process it because that's my hurt,
Mm.
not her hurt. But she was equally as upset to lose the potential of being a big sister. And then I knew I was pregnant at this point, but I was keeping it a secret. Obviously, my husband knew, but I wanted to book the early scan to know that, for my reassurance, before I told absolutely anybody. And then my daughter looked at me and she went, Mum, are you pregnant? I was like, I don't know what to say to this, because it could have been a really insensitive thing to say. But I just burst out laughing. And I was like, well, that's how you've just found out.
Cat's out the bag.
Yeah. Like, she's a very empathic, intuitive child. Well, adult now.
They're mad kids as well. They know what's going on without necessarily knowing what's going on. It's so interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't lie to her. And it was a genuine, honest question. And we've got that kind of relationship where we are honest and open with each
Mm.
other. So yeah, we treated her. So me and my husband went to the early scan, just the two of us, to
Make
just
sure.
to make sure. Then she wasn't allowed to come to the NHS scans, but we did treat her to a gender reveal scan at 18
About
weeks.
16, 18 weeks, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we paid privately for that scan, and they gave us the due date. They told us it was a little girl. So Molly, my eldest, wheeling because she desperately wanted a little sister.
Mm.
And then they told us the due date, 26th of November. And she was, no, because that's her birthday.
Ah, okay.
So I, again, fell about laughing because I knew Felicity was going to be born by C-section. Due date. Well, due date's pretty much irrelevant anyway, isn't it?
Mm.
I don't know the percentage of babies born on their actual due date, but it must be tiny.
I would imagine so. Poppy was 1 day early in the end, but certainly when it's a C-section, they book it in slightly early, don't they? So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that must have been very special on the counterpoint to how difficult it would have been to watch your daughter's emotions alongside your own whilst you were going through the miscarriage. It must have then been incredibly special to be able to share those moments with her and the arrival of her little sister later on.
Yeah. So there's 12 years between them, but only 9 days.
Birthdays.
Yeah.
Nice. The
And
other, yeah, go on, sorry.
I did apologise to her for not being able to do much for her 12th birthday because she had a newborn sister. And I was obviously recovering from a major surgery.
Yeah, all the things that suddenly become more important when you're 12 years old. The other thing I wanted to pick up on was the moment you mentioned when you were in A&E with swine flu with the gynecologist who just treated you like a human. And I think that's the bit that's probably a lot of the time necessarily lacking from medical care. As we said earlier, there needs to be a large element of there is someone here who is essentially unwell and we need to get them well and we need to make sure that we don't miss anything and we do everything right.
They're a patient.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's particularly around baby loss. It must be a very difficult line to tread for the doctors and for the medical team. We had an absolutely mind-blowingly fantastic midwife with us whilst we were going through ours, and I don't think we could have done it without her.
Mm.
But that moment as you were telling the story just really stood out to me, is where that human touch comes in and where you're treated with that just sort of respect and humanity are the things that really stand out. And I think that is where communities like the one we're trying to create through the challenge, but also the others through Tommy's, through the Girls at the Worst Girl Gang Ever, all these people are just trying to create that sense of you're not the only person who's had to do this. It's normal to feel the way that you're feeling. You are grieving a loss. We're just here for you and want to make sure you're okay, is incredibly important in a environment and a scenario that can feel so unfamiliar to a lot of people.
Yeah. When I was told there was no heartbeat and to come back however long it was later, I still had hope. The heart might start beating.
Mm.
Oh, and I had to keep having blood tests to see if the pregnancy hormone levels were increasing. And they were, but not enough. So trying to plead with this midwife but they have gone up enough. And she was like, well, they are going up, but not as rapidly as they should. But I wanted her to tell me that everything was going to be okay. And obviously nobody could. In that situation, they can't tell me that everything's going to be okay because that would be lying. But to just give hope, just to get it taken away.
Yeah, no, it's a very difficult time. When you look back on it now, sort of with that 10-year perspective, what could you have known going into that experience that might have made it easier, less of a shock? Where do you feel there was a knowledge gap there, or even not even knowledge, but just an expectation gap?
I feel that a couple will sit down, they decide they want a baby, and we just assume that it's easy to get pregnant. And because you're pregnant, it's going to develop into a healthy baby. 9 months later, you give birth to the baby and everything's honky-dory. How simple, how beautiful.
Yeah.
Babies aren't guaranteed. And we always think that the catastrophe won't happen to us. It happens to somebody you know.
Yeah. I think I think that will be the theme of pretty much every conversation I have about this over the next
Yeah.
months. Alice, who's one of our later runners, she's doing Dorset. She talks about Hollywood babies, and that's the exact situation you just described. You know, there's a romantic scene of passion in the film, and 9 months later there's a baby there, and I think that's often the societal perception of it, but it's just not the case.
But hopefully with this Marathons for Miracles, we will get people talking and people will share their stories
This is the aim.
and people will listen to your podcast and go, oh, that happened to me too. And they're not going through it alone. And
It's
I
a
hope
fine
that
it's a
people,
fine line between wanting people to be more aware of what could happen. Getting pregnant is incredibly exciting and it's a huge life event and you want to share it with everyone and tell everyone. And I don't want to be the person that's going around saying to people, don't get too excited. You know, you don't want to be the Debbie
yeah,
Downer, but you just somehow want to insert just an element of awareness around what
maybe we need
could and what
to
might.
change expectations now so that that first pregnancy test doesn't equal healthy baby.
Yeah. Although hopefully it does.
Hopefully it does.
The thing is it's such, and it's, we touched on it earlier and it crops up so often. It's the conflict of emotions. It's the very, very happy times contrast with very, very sad times. And how do you navigate that? And it's not easy to do.
Yeah. I can't remember the age of the fetus. Is it like after 20 weeks, if you have a miscarriage, you can have a funeral and a service for the...
So this is something that's changing and developing. And there's someone I was having a conversation with a week or so ago who they sadly had a stillbirth at 42 weeks. And this was 40, 50 years ago. And there was just no hint of a funeral or a grieving process. It was, and they had to really push to get anything in that regard. We were offered a funeral at 12, 13 weeks, wherever we were. So I think it's improving and that's really nice to see. And the sort of grief support that we did get from the hospital was good. You know, we can't knock it too much. It's there's just, yeah, but there's still such a long way
That's
to
nice to
go.
hear because we do need closure.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't be told how to feel, but my dad passed away 4 years ago and I'll always have like a drink and a Mars bar on his birthday and the day he passed away. But what do you do when you've had a miscarriage?
Yeah.
And I know we can't keep looking back. And it's like, I'm going to be sad on this day because that's the day I found out I was pregnant. And I'm going to be sad on this day because that's the day the miscarriage started. I'm going to be sad on this day because that's the due date. And before you know it, your year's taken up with
Yeah.
bereavement dates.
I think it's like you said earlier, it does evolve and that grief does move on and changes. And it's about forgiving yourself for that happening. Because you do, as you say, you do need to move on and you do need to move forward, but it never goes away, I guess.
I think forgiveness is a big thing, isn't it? And acceptance. Forgiveness and acceptance.
What surprised you most about yourself through that experience?
That's a good question, isn't it? What did I discover about myself? That it's okay. You know, the whole cliche, it's okay to not be okay, but it's also okay to be okay.
That's fantastic. I think we can leave that there. I think that sums it up. Thank you so much for sharing that story, Lyni. I know it's never hard to sort of re-dredge these emotions, but I mean, I wasn't expecting swine flu week 1, so that's so let's move on to the running, because we are doing lots of running. We are doing lots of talking about
Yes.
baby loss, but we're doing lots of running.
Forgot about the running bit for a minute.
Where did running come from for you, and how did that sort of fit back into your life, especially with two girls running around?
I run to get away from them.
You've run away from them.
You put your heart and soul and all your dreams into wanting kids, and then you spend the day running away from them. Yeah. Ever since I was a little kid, some of my fondest memories of my dad taking me to races in the school days, being there, cheering me on sports day, and never been the fastest runner, but it's fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, some people
Type
would,
2 fun, I think it's called.
yeah,
Yeah.
some people would definitely disagree with me.
Yeah.
And then,
So you're certainly not coming into this as an amateur. You've been running silly distances for a long time.
yeah, I love ultras, and I'm very proud of the fact that I beat the cutoff. I'm that kind of runner.
Yeah.
And although I did do Amsterdam Marathon recently and got 4 hours 22,
Very respectable. Although I've seen some footage from that, Lyni. I think you could have shaved 15 minutes off by taking fewer photos and doing less chatting.
It said quite a lot, actually. If you didn't chat as much, you might be able to run a bit faster. But where's the fun in that? And if I hadn't have had to weave round 30,000 people, I wouldn't have run half a mile extra, and I would have got the time I actually wanted. But let's not go there.
So it was the others that were running too slowly that were holding you up.
Yeah.
Well, there won't be anyone holding us up for the majority, Lyni. But tell us a bit about our route. What have we got in store? Where are we going?
Do I need to apologise now?
You tell me.
Well, it's quite a fun route, but now we know what my level of fun is. I hope you're not too worried.
No, I'm up for fun.
I've been kind to you with the route, I think.
Okay.
And we're going to see a few hills, but they're Leicestershire hills, so they're not really hills. There will be mud.
Good.
But I'm also treating...
Unless the mud's frozen, I guess. This is...
No, not in December. So there will be some mud. You'll get to see some beautiful Leicestershire countryside.
Which there is a lot of, actually. Leicestershire is a very, very pretty county.
We are very green. We're very fortunate. And I'm also going to treat you to a little bit of road because I did promise not to break you. So we're going to start in Hinckley, where I actually live.
Nice.
Run 20 miles to Hunket.
Mm-hmm. And
then do the Hunket hash.
Yeah.
Dressed as Colin the Caterpillar. Slices of Colin the Caterpillar cake.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do their Hunket hash, which will hopefully be really muddy. And that's very hilly. But imagine the views you're going to see.
Oh, I'm not against hills. I'm all for hills, and we like mud. I think particularly at that time of year, if you're not getting muddy, then you're not trying hard enough. So
yes.
So we've sort of got 20 miles, predominantly the two of us, but maybe some guest appearances along the way, and then we'll be joining a race for the last.
There'll be loads of people dressed up as a slice of caterpillar cake for us.
Excellent. Will there actually be a Colin the Caterpillar cake to eat at the finish, like a real life one?
Definitely.
Or 3 or 4.
We might need quite a few Colin the Caterpillar cakes. We could even do like a Colin the Caterpillar versus Cuthbert versus, is it Maisie from Morrison's?
Oh, now, yeah. Your knowledge there is greater than mine, but I'm all for a taste test.
Yeah, or do we just stick to Colin because
the OG?
He is the best. Sorry, Aldi.
Oh, it's going to be such a fun day out, Lyni. And I think from having seen your sort of training runs and the races that you do in the time that I've known you over the last sort of few months whilst we've been putting this together, I think you've got a real passion and a real zest for just being outside and enjoying the English countryside, which is, for me, we're obviously running one of the marathons in each county, and we're going to get a real tour of the country, which is what
so interesting, isn't it?
I'm looking forward to that. I'm not looking forward to the traveling so much every week, but then the actual being there and the seeing and the doing. And 26 miles is a long way. You can see a lot of a county in 26 miles. So it's going to be a real special part of it. And I think your route and your passion for that is going to be a fantastic way to kick things off.
But I don't think your first marathon is going to be your quickest.
That's fine. It never was. It never was going to be, Lyni. I think I'll still be training by then, technically. So look, I think it's going to be a fantastic weekend. And for taking on the mantle of the first one, especially 2 days after Christmas, I think you're fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Leicestershire, actually meeting up with you in person and having a fantastic day out.
Having a little party.
Absolutely. So thank you very much for that. We'll look forward to the run, and thank you so much for your time today and your thoughts on what's obviously at the centre of what we're doing. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I hope the training goes well.